Hello, everyone. This is Brett. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Eclectic Playlist. This is the final one of October 2022 in the spirit of Halloween. I'm collecting things that were listened to over the week, kind of in the darker region of music. So, as usual, I'm going to start with a new release. This one just came out this past Friday, and this is Siouxsie and the Banshees, All Souls. It's a compilation that Siouxsie herself had curated, I think, for just a Halloween release. And what I actually love about this is it went deep. So it's not just a collection, of greatest hits, so to speak. It has a few of those, but it has B-sides and really deep cuts, which, me being a really big B-side and deep cut fan, I highly appreciate. So, and always I look at little things like this. They put the inner sleeve untouched inside, and then you get a nice black poly-lined sleeve to put the record in. So as far as the track listing goes, you got Fireworks, Halloween from Juju, John McGeoch on guitar, and then you have some B-sides, Supernatural Thing, El Dia de las Muertes, probably one of my absolute favorite Siouxsie and the Banshee song, The Swedish Chill from the Tinderbox album. There's that guitar break in there that just is super emotional. Spellbound, another track from Juju, Something Wicked This Way Comes, which was the B-side to Killing Jar from Peep Show back there, Rawhead and Bloody Bones, We Hunger, and Peekaboo. So I think if you're new to Siouxsie or if you're an old fan, it's a really neat collection to have. And I thought the sound of it was really great. We were sitting right here in front of the speakers, and it just sounded great, really vibrant. Yeah, All Souls. I know there's an orange copy of this that came out as well. We just got the black one. All right, I was just playing this one, so I'm going into the collection now here. Bauhaus, Go Away White. So, as most of you know, if you're familiar with the Bauhaus story and catalog, they put out 4 albums from 1980 to 83. You had In the Flat Field, Mask, The Sky's Going Out, Burning from the Inside, compilations, live albums, and stuff. And then they went away for 15 years. They reunited in 1998, got to see them on that tour at Mesa Amphitheater in Arizona. And then I saw them again, I think it was in 2006 or 7, same venue, Mesa Amphitheater. And then they recorded this album and released it in 2008. So their 5th and so-called final album. There's been, reunited shows since then. My brother had seen them earlier in this year at the Cruel World Festival in California, and he said they were just absolutely outstanding. But this album is really fascinating because it also shows just kind of the diversity in Bauhaus's sound, and none of their albums sounded like the previous one. And even this one, I mean, there's a few touchstones maybe with some material on their first album, In the Flat Field, but generally speaking, it's a really different sound. I like that it's not overproduced at all. It sounds raw. It sounds like a band playing in the studio. There's moments where you can hear them talking to each other during the songs. The real absolute star of this album is David J's bass playing that fretless. It has that really, really low kind of reggae dub sound to it, which is not atypical. If you go back to She's in Parties off of Burning from the Inside, you get that sound. So Go Away White. I feel like I remember reading that they recorded it in like 17 days or something. And it's a shame because they didn't really tour to support it because they broke up again after it. But I did see Peter Murphy really close after this came out, and he did some of the songs live off of this one. But it really starts off with 3 killer tracks: Too Much 21st Century, Adrenaline, Undone. Undone has this really great like syncopated bass fills. And then International Bulletproof Talent, when you really listen closely, there's this really high sliding going on in the bass that's really a unique part considering what else is going on in the music. But my absolute favorite one on this is the song Mirror Remains. And once again, like I said earlier about how it feels like, they're just kind of making it up in the studio, and it's you hear banter. There's one moment in this where it goes to an instrumental section, and you actually hear Peter Murphy say in the background something to the effect like, here's where the solo goes, saying to Daniel Ash. And then Daniel Ash is just doing these kind of like scratchy, muted strums. And you hear Daniel Ash goes, this is the solo. And then you hear Peter Murphy respond, it's good. And that's my favorite moment of the whole album. It's just really, I love that kind of stuff. So this is, I think this is probably the one and only pressing of it. It came on white vinyl. I have it on the turntable over there. But I'll just show you this quickly. It came with a poster, and it has a sticker. I have the CD as well. And so I have that stuck somewhere. I don't usually keep things in the shrink wrap, but this one has that really cool Bauhaus logo hype sticker. So yeah, Go Away White. If you're unfamiliar with this one, definitely check it out. It's got the embossed band and title on there. All right. Next up, let's follow this one up with Christian Death's Path of Sorrows. All right, so there's a long story about Christian Death. There was really two different versions of the bands going on. So the original singer Rozz Williams was on Only Theater Pain, Catastrophe Ballet, and Ashes, and he left in 1985. Some of the other members carried on, so there's a bunch of other albums as well. But this is really the fourth Rozz Christian Death album. This originally came out on Cleopatra Records back in 1993. I bought it on CD back then. And this is the vinyl reissue that came out. This one just came out like a few weeks ago. And I'll pull it out and show it to you. They changed the logo of Christian Death on here from the original CD release, so it looks more like Only Theater of Pain. And it looks just like the CD booklet did. The vinyl itself is really cool looking. I think he called it a blue haze. Look at that. I mean, that's just maybe one of the coolest records that I've seen. How does it sound? I don't know. Like a lot of pressings on Cleopatra, I found it to be pretty noisy. And there's a song on here in particular called Mother that is this. It's just one of the saddest songs, and there's so much noise in it that it almost deems it unlistenable. Definitely sounds a lot different than the first three Christian Death records. Favorite tracks on this one: In Absentia, of course, Mother, The Angels, Book of Lies, and then there's a really plodding, intense cover of the Velvet Underground song Venus and Furs. And back when Audra's first album came out on Project in 2000, Sam Rosenthal, who runs Project and Black Tape for Blue Girl, he put together a compilation called Orphe, and he was curating it, and there was an Audra track on there, and David Sylvian, Tones on Tail. It was just a great lineup to be in. And he had me pick a Rozz Williams song, and I chose Mother for that. And yeah, so it's a really cool release. The artwork's a little bit different. They kind of framed it, which I actually kind of like the blue border around it. But I feel like the pressing on this one is just kind of is a bit of a deterrent. All right, let's keep moving on. Next up, 1985 debut album from Leeds, England's Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry. This is Talk About the Weather. This is the Drastic Plastic reissue that came out a few years back. Has the sleeve with lyrics, and it's on this cool smoky. I love just these old school labels too. The white with the text and then the black on the other side. Yeah, so if you're unfamiliar with Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry, I posted this on Instagram yesterday, and anyone who's either getting into post-punk or goth rock, or someone that just maybe is unfamiliar with Red Lorry, Yellow Lorry, I think this should be a staple in your collection. as well as their other releases as well. I highly recommend this one, and checking out also the Blow album, I think, which came out in 1991. The song Heaven is just really quite great. All right, here's another one I went deep into the collection for last night. Back when I was back in the 80s, when I was a teenager, I grew up loving the band U2, and there was a biography that came out on them sometime back in the 80s, and reading about it and reading about their childhood and their upbringing, and I learned about the band the Virgin Prunes, which growing up, Gavin Friday and Guggy and Bono were all best friends, and they started, their bands around the same time. If you think of like an angel and devil kind of split, U2 on one side, Virgin Prunes is kind of the evil twin. Really experimental, post-punk, just great, fun, sometimes challenging listening, but really great stuff. And this year they're celebrating the 40th anniversary of their first album, If I Die, I Die, which is a favorite album of all time I have a compilation back there, Over the Rainbow. But this came out in 1982. It's called Heresy, and what it is it's a double 10-inch box set that collects some studio material on the first record, and then the second record has some live tracks, and the live tracks were so fun to listen to last night. I hadn't pulled this out in a really long time, but hearing Walls of Jericho, Caucasian Walk, Pagan Love Song, it was just so thrilling to hear it. They were so energetic and just kind of bizarre. So if you're unfamiliar with Virgin Prunes, that 40th anniversary of their first album is coming out. So there's been a lot of articles and stuff, and they've been pretty active on social media promoting it. So it's been great to read this in kind of a victory lap for them, and hopefully someday in the future maybe they'll do some type of reunited show. I feel like they did some sort of a show several years back, but I don't think it was billed as a Virgin Prunes reunion. But great stuff nonetheless. All right, next up, this is The Fog. I've been showing, I think, John Carpenter every one of these videos this month. So the 1980 movie, this is the soundtrack that came out on Waxwork Records, and like Death Waltz and Mondo, Waxwork. And it's just for horror soundtracks, science fiction soundtracks, and a lot of stuff from the 70s and 80s. It's so great, the attention to detail, these new covers that they put on them. It's a double record, beautiful gatefold, and the color of this pressing is also really quite something else. I'll bring it out of the sleeve here so you can see it. Look at that. John Carpenter, just his not only his movies, but the soundtrack work that he has done and continues to do is just really stellar. Comes with a book, 2 record set, as I said, and yeah, I highly recommend The Fog. I highly recommend all John Carpenter stuff because it's such a fun listen, especially at this time of the year. All right, so the last 3 things I'm going to show you all are from the same band. There's a Canadian post-punk band that I got into back when they kind of first emerged, called Preoccupations. They started out as Viet Cong, and they quickly changed their name on their second release to Preoccupations. They have a new album that just came out. I'm waiting for my copy to come in the mail. I've listened to it digitally, and I'm super excited for it to arrive. So Viet Cong, Canadian post-punk, really gritty. The singer's vocals is just really kind of gritty and intense. And as far as modern post-punk goes, they're top tier. My favorite one probably is the self-titled one that came out in 2016, Anxiety. I mean, Memory is just a beautiful track, and it's a long, really long, sprawling song in several movements. And there's at one point in the song where Dan Bachner, I think his name is, from Wolf Parade, does the vocals on this one section, and it's just chilling, goosebump inducing. Preoccupation, that's the self-titled one. And then this is one called New Material that came out, I feel like it was 2018. Also recommended. This song, Disarray, just really great guitar playing. If you're fans of early post-punk bands like Magazine, Gang of Four, stuff like that, check out Preoccupations. I don't hear people talking about them a whole lot, but now that they have a new album, perhaps they're getting some extra attention. But highly recommend Preoccupations. All right, I think that's it. Let me know what you guys been listening to. Happy Halloween to everyone out there, and I'll see you next time.